And that's the challenge we got to do. If we are who we say we are and we believe what we say we believe, then we do it. Well, it's hard. Yeah, it is hard. Beloved in God the Father. Now that the Father's in, loved by the Father, called by the Spirit, and then Jesus wants to get in us too, right? And kept for Jesus Christ. So if you are called and you are loved by God and you are kept by Jesus, and if you're saved, that's who you are, then you are to contend for the faith. So that's what we got to do. Not only when we share the gospel, they're going to have questions, they're going to come up against us, so we need to start this journey of knowing what we believe and why we believe it. Right. Isn't that key? So here they are, the disciples walking, touching, seeing, hearing, writing down in the book of what they experienced with Christ. They saw, we'll get to miracles in a minute, but they saw all of these things. And guess what? When Christ died and was raised again, he appeared to over 500 brethren. And so, look, we got this, and by the time it got here, something changed. By the time it got here, there's, men writing more Arab interpretation. By the time it got here, jacked up, got all these different it's copied all these times. It just, come on, there's mistakes. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Okay, King James Version. Now, there are translations. We don't speak Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew. We don't. Our dialect does not flow that way. If you read Greek, if you took Greek and put the English words under the Greek word, it would sound so jacked up. The subject matter is always first. It's never over here. It just don't flow. So what we do is we translate it, but we never change the meaning of those words. And we use the Greek words, but we move them to say the same thing. And so the King James was translated from the original copies, because there's no more originals. Back in the day when they wrote the Bible, on the materials that they wrote it on, that we don't have any original Bible, but we have a copy of the original. And so what they would do, King James would translate from the copies of the originals. This would copy from them, and them. So they're going back to this to get that translation. They're not going here. And you go to college, you go to these higher, you'll read about all these cats right here. And guess what? When you talk to the professor, Plato, he was right. He was right. We have his writings. He's right. All these different Caesar, 10 measly existing copies, right?
1,000 years from the original.
1,000 years from when yeah. And so Aristotle, look at all these things. Guess what? But they teach it as absolute fact. Yes. Do you know the reality of what it would mean to change the scripture? All right, 6,000 copies or segments of copies from the original. Let's say this monk had an agenda and he wanted to change scripture. What did he have to do?
He'd have to go to 3 continents.
Go to 3 continents.
Learn 3 languages.
Learn 3 languages. Go to all 6,000 copies of the original. Change that. Make it look like he didn't change it. Hide his ink work. Learn 3 languages. Get it right in Syriac, Coptic, and Latin. You do all that right. He had to do all of that. And not tell anybody. Guess what? Not going to happen. Now, do you see the case being built for the Bible? It's not going to happen. Mountain. Look here. Who is it? Peter, James, and John was with Jesus on the mountain, and boom,
They saw his glory.
light. And they're like, oh, and then Jesus is talking to somebody. Who's he talking to?
Father.
Oh, well, Elijah and Moses. The law and the prophets. And here is Jesus, and what they're witnessing, they're getting a glimpse of the glory of God. Whoo! I'm just telling you, man. He's giving them a picture of what we're going to see forever. And he's talking to Moses and Elijah. And what does God, and he's over talking, what does God say to them? Listen to Jesus. Okay? The law, the prophets, this is great, but listen to my son. You can't prove history with science. Matter of fact, you can't prove God with science because he's out. Scientifically, you cannot walk on water, by the way. Scientifically, you can't be on a mountain and rise up into the heavens. Scientifically, you can't raise somebody from the dead. Scientifically, you can't make somebody's arm grow or disease disappear or ears hear and eyes see. That's outside of science. So don't put God in a science box. But you're going to base your whole life on science. So were you there? Could you observe it? Could you test it? And could you repeat it? That's science, and you can't do that in your worldview.